All right, what's up, everybody? We got our first episode of Mansonomics here. Got my boy Twan, who's doing his real estate thing out here and everything. So maybe Twan, maybe you can give them the people like a little bit of information about you.
Yeah. So my name is Antoine Dean. I'm a real estate agent here in Portland, Oregon. With being a real estate agent, I also invest in real estate. So I have four properties, and then I also like work with builders. So I just right now I'm working on my first development project. I partner with one of my builders. So I guess you could say, yeah. So I guess you could say real estate agent, investor, and newly, builder. So that's my
Sure.
that's what I do day to day.
And a lot of people feel like you got to start off with a lot of money. You got to come from money to get into the real estate game. So how did you even get into that? And like, just tell me a little bit about like how you grew up and whatnot.
Right. So how I grew up. So growing up, single mom. My mom had me. She was 16. My dad went to jail when I was real young. So it's just basically me and my mom, and my grandma was like super close with my grandma. So that's like the nucleus that raised me. Um, and so I grew up like because my mom had me so young. I always felt like the reason why like this when we if we would go through like whatever hard times, I always felt like it was my fault. Like if she didn't have me, like she would be straight. So I always grew up trying to carry my own weight,
Same here.
so to speak. So I grew up. So I just always was entrepreneurial. So when I was in middle school, I always grew up with selling just random stuff. It didn't matter if it was shoes, CDs, just whatever. So
You know what CDs are nowadays too? Because we got CDs now. Where's 2020?
Oh yeah, huh? Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, grew up selling, burning CDs, whatever that. And then as I got older, I would say like high school, really like middle school, like eighth grade, I probably got into sales a little bit. It's a couple of things I probably shouldn't have. And then when I got into high school, I kind of got a little bit deeper into that. And then it just got to a point where I just made a decision. It's like, do I want to do this or I want to do that? And then so ultimately,
So where did that come from? Like a lot of people even keep doing that. It's like their 30s, 40s,
right.
50s. Where did that come from?
So I would say personally, I learned a lot from my dad, right?
Okay.
So my dad made every mistake that you every mistake that you could make. So he was in gangs. He was always going to jail, whether it was for guns, was DUI, domestic violence, just whatever, right? So he's going to jail. So I seen him have, live a certain life, make a lot of money, and I seen like because I grew up in Atlanta, not I probably for we lived there probably 2, 3 years. I used to go there every summer. So I seen, and when I was down there, I would visit my dad. But long story short, he would like my cousins. They would all have a lot of money. Just whatever it is that you would think looks good as far as just like a D-boy life or whatever that is. They lived that life. But as I got older, they will always go to jail. They'll always lose it. So my thing was like, I just want to get in and get out. You know what I mean? Like I just want to be able to use it as a stepping stone. So my objective when I was hustling is like I wanted to like take a certain amount of money, start a business, and just kind of leave it all behind. And so
Smart.
I attempted it in that way, but I ended up starting a couple of different businesses. I probably went through like $40,000 in like an 18-month period. Was depressed, and then I just figured, figure it all out. And so how real estate came about is something that I've always liked. Growing up, my favorite board game was Monopoly. So I've always just liked real estate. I've always just there was something about it that I just always liked, and I always knew that I wanted to invest in it. So after I kind of like went like figuring out like okay, after I try to start these different businesses, I'm like okay, what should I do? And so it was like after starting them, I was like I want to do something where like I'm me as a person, right? Like I can just be who I am, and just kind of just do what I do. And so I was like, okay, so I want to like I've always like the idea of getting into real estate. I always want to be a real estate developer. So I've always wanted to build like apartment buildings or condos or just big like build stuff. So initially it was like, okay, how do I get to that level? How do I learn to invest? So becoming a real estate agent was like starting off pretty much not at the bottom, but like the entry level. So like I can get in, I can learn how to invest, I can learn about real estate, I can make connections, and then I can just kind of like grow. So essentially that's why I got into real estate. But even before that, like I said, I've always liked it. Like I was supposed to buy the first property I was supposed to buy was in 2011. I had a teacher who said, save up $20,000, get a job for a year, and we'll get you a house. But at that time, I didn't understand. Like I was gonna spend 20 grand, 30 grand to put down on a house, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna make $200-300 a month from it, but I didn't understand appreciation. Like I didn't like the bigger scale wasn't explained to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I missed that. I missed that opportunity, and like I ended up trying to start whatever it is that I wanted to start. But so I guess I'm saying that to say like I wanted to do real estate initially when I got out of high school, but I just ended up going on a different route, and then it just kind of came back.
And how old are you now?
28. 28, yeah.
So would you say it's safe to say that right now you would classify yourself as at least a real estate millionaire?
Not yet.
No?
Not yet. No. Okay. So
almost though. You're getting there.
Like halfway there. Gotcha. I'll say like halfway. So right now I have the four duplexes. Three houses, a duplex. And so like right now, once I
just want to stop right there real quick. That's cool.
Right.
So you said 4 houses?
Yeah, no, three duplexes.
3 duplexes.
And 1 house. So 4 properties in total.
So 4 properties total. Yeah. 28 years old.
Yeah.
You didn't have a silver spoon in your mouth.
No.
Nobody, like no real like big handouts.
No.
Still made it happen.
Yeah. Still.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and I think it's more so about just putting yourself in certain situations, putting yourself in the way of the opportunities. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So like being in the right place at the right time, mingling with the right people, asking the right questions, and just a collective of just like, just grinding it out.
And even seeing how we're like the grinding it out, putting yourself in those right positions. Right now, we live in Portland, Oregon. That's where this is being filmed at. This has been the widest city in the country for at least the last 3 or 4 years. Not one of the widest, the widest city.
Right.
Metropolitan city in America.
Yeah.
So you spoke a little bit about being yourself and like really grinding and putting yourself in those situations. How, if at all, do you see being a Black man and a young Black man at that in this country, in this racial climate that we have had recently? Like, how do you see that affecting your day to day? And do you see yourself being able to be yourself in those situations?
So I think that like just when you're dealing with people, you deal with everybody differently, right? Mm-hmm. You deal with your mom differently, you deal with your girlfriend or your best friend. Like you deal with everybody differently, but it's like the core of you still, not has to be you, but you still have to be comfortable being yourself, dealing with. So I think growing up kind of just like hustling and having to deal with a lot of different people, I think innately that's just something that I already kind of, you know what I mean? I realize that I can be me and I can get along with, whoever. So I never felt like I had to switch and be this way around these people or be this way. It's kind of like I said, you treat everybody differently, and I might use different vernacular if I'm talking to you versus if I'm talking to somebody who's not of our culture or doesn't know our culture, whether they're white or Black. You know what I mean? Because you got Black people who don't know the culture. You're gonna speak to them a little bit differently, and white people. So I guess my whole thing is, I think that just being having self-identity from just, growing up, I think just being Black, I would say in the whitest city in America, being Black in the whitest city in America and doing real estate, I think it goes both ways. Like there are people who like that are, not of your race that do want to support you, right? Because they see and they understand. And you got people who won't support you, because you're a certain way. But I would say being Black in real estate, I don't know. I can't sit here and say it's affected me in a negative way because there's probably people who didn't decide to work with me for whatever reason.
They're not calling you saying, "Oh, I'm working with N-words."
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's like if it has affected me, or have I not worked with certain clients or done certain deals because of that, I really don't know.
Gotcha.
So I can't really say it has. I mean, ultimately, I probably would say there's probably been some instance in some situation where I was at, let's say, an open house, and someone would have worked with me if I wasn't who I was or looked the way that I looked. But ultimately, I can't say. So I move in the way as if it hasn't. You know what I mean? Because I don't like to go through life with a tainted lens and think that people are not working with me or out to get me or whatever it is. So ultimately, no. And I guess I've seen it benefit me in certain ways. Being African American. So I would say it hasn't really affected. It really hasn't affected me.
That's something I think that is hard to keep in mind for like a lot of us because we know that we live in America. We know we're Black men. We know we're young Black men, and we're constantly seen as a target a lot of the time. And I think a lot of us put our own hindrance in front of us because we say we can't do this or can't do that because certain people won't accept us.
Right.
So I think it's real cool that you can say like, if that person didn't accept me for who I am, or whatever, I'm not even gonna pay that no attention. I'm not even gonna think about it. And
Right.
I just keep, progressing and be myself.
Right.
And get successful too.
Because I think is to do that is to disrespect the people who do work with you or do,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? To do like to only give attention and effort to the people who haven't worked with me for whatever reason. I feel like I'm disrespecting the people who like I'm by not giving them attention or the appreciation. Exactly. So I just I mean, like I said, if people haven't worked with me because of the way that I look, I don't know. And I don't even really, like I said, I don't really care to even really think about it. Because ultimately it doesn't matter and it's not going to hinder, I don't think it's going to hinder my success on a large scale. Like, could I have made more money certain years? Yes, but on a grander scale, I don't think it'll affect kind of like what, where I'm going. And I guess to speak on just kind of like real estate, and one of the reasons why I like real estate is because is there's a lot of opportunity, right? So if you think as you drive down the street, and I'm talking to the viewers, as you drive down the street of any place, there's somebody who owns everything that you're driving past, right? So whether it's individual people, whether it's married couples, whether it's businesses, people own all of it, right? So you think about how many houses there are, how many pieces of real estate there are in a single city. Each one of those is an opportunity to buy something or to do, to structure something. So there's limitless opportunity. So even if there is racism or whatever it is, right? It's like there's so much opportunity that in the grand scheme of things, if your head is on straight, like, there's a certain sector of deals you might not get, but I think there's a larger pool of things that you can, and I think there's more deals in any city than any one person can buy. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like,
or even keep you from.
Exactly. So my thing is like, so I think it's one of the businesses where it's like, I'm not hindered by the people more so, I'm more so hindered by how I view things and what my work ethic is.
And what do you say to people who see people like a Stephen Graham or something on YouTube and see these people who've made millions of dollars in 5, 6, 7 years, and they say, well, what is he doing? Like, how can he be a millionaire yet? What do you say to those people?
Right. To me personally, you're saying, like, what do I say to the people who view them? And you're saying,
who view them and like they want to get in the real estate game, they might look at you. They might expect for their real estate portfolios to look like they're in the millions in 2 or 3 years, like that.
Right.
What do you say to those people?
I mean, what I'll say is that everyone has to realize they're running their own race, right? So, like there's people who, became millionaires at 50, right? There's people who became millionaires at 23, right? And so it's more so about not, just like kind of running the race with your blinders on and just focusing on you.
Tunnel vision.
More so focusing on you and not being influenced about what's going on around you as far as like, oh, he did it faster, they did this, or they did this, because ultimately you don't know their situation and you don't know how hard they work. Like, they could be a little bit more humble than you think they are, and they're putting in crazy hours and sacrifice a lot to get there. And you don't know that. And you're not making those same sacrifices, wanting those same results, And sometimes it works the other way, that people, for whatever reason, were blessed with certain opportunities or had opportunities that they were able to take advantage of early that put them ahead. And, you can't really, you can't judge them for that. And it doesn't make them any better of an investor or a real estate person than you because they made a certain amount of money faster, right? So ultimately, I would say to that, to answer your question, is like, you got to run the race with your blinders on, because they may have gotten there faster than you, but they may not go as high as you.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So just because, someone got to a place way faster doesn't mean they're going to go further. So I would just say run your race and figure out what it is that you're trying to accomplish and assess your happiness and what is it your goals are, and not base your goals off of what someone else achieved or what you think they achieved. I mean, but it's okay to also size things up and get perspective. I'm not saying,
for sure,
like, you can see, okay, if anything, you will want to look at it as if it's possible. Like, okay, they did this in 3 to 5 years. It may not happen for me as fast, but I know that it's possible.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I think it's about just having a proper perspective when viewing other people, right? Because I don't ever want to look at myself because you have more money than me or you have whatever more than me, that I'm now inferior to you and you're superior to me because you have more that makes me less, So I try not to live that way.
And then, sorry from getting you wrong, but all I'm hearing is just because someone makes more money even in the same industry, doesn't mean that they're necessarily better at that than you.
Yes, yeah, wholeheartedly. Because sometimes you just haven't had your time, or you haven't had your moment, or you're not working hard enough. It could be that too. It could just ultimately be that, like you haven't had your time, you haven't had your moment, or you're not putting enough effort into it. So you just got to assess your situation personally. And I think one of the things I always say too is like I think that like the mindset that you have, like if you have if you're $20,000 in debt right now, right, and you have, I guess I would just say like a broken mentality, right? That deficit is only going to run up. Exactly. You know what I mean? It's only going to go more. Versus if you have, like, you could be $20,000 in debt, and whatever happened, you had a breakthrough, and now you have like a positive mindset, and you're going in the other direction, right? Mm-hmm. I guess what I'm saying is, in that moment, I think like whenever you adopt this is gonna sound cheesy, but let's just say millionaire mindset.
No, real talk, real millionaire mindset.
Or growth mindset.
That's what it is.
Once you adopted that and you have that and you live that way, I feel like you become a millionaire in that moment. Mm-hmm. It just takes time for the physical world to catch up to what you're doing.
I know what I am. In that direction. I know what I am. I'm waiting for y'all to see it now.
Exactly. Yeah. And so sometimes it takes time to manifest. Because I would say, like, if you were to talk to me 6 years ago when I had got my first job and I was working there trying to get my credit together, I would have told you that I wanted to be a real estate agent, to flip property, to be able to start to develop.
Back when you were shooting them broke jumpers at the park,
No, I don't know about the broke jumpers. But you're funny. But yeah, if you would have asked me 6 years ago what I wanted to do, in 10 years, is I'm on the path of doing that. So I guess in that moment, I feel like that's when I became wealthy. It's just like I just have to do, make the moves to be able to get there. You know what I mean? To bring it in actuality. So yeah. And I guess like so to speak, I feel like I would say thus far, one of like something that's like not big to me, but one of my bigger accomplishments is that like I knew I wanted to like develop like apartments or condos. And so like right now I'm in the process of like dividing the property that I have to be able to build 14 units on it, right? And so I guess like, that was something that I know that I wanted to do 6 years ago when I didn't have anything and I didn't know how it was gonna happen. Like I didn't always have a roadmap of like exactly how to get there, but I was like, I knew to take a step in this direction. If I keep walking in this direction, I'll get closer and closer. Yeah.
They say the man who walked 1,000,000 miles had to start with one step.
Right.
So that's something that you got to think about too. I guess in the closing, what is some advice you would give young people? Because I mean, people look at us and say, "Oh, y'all in your 20s, 30s, and y'all are still super young," and I agree with that. Right. However, you just said 6 years ago, your life has completely changed. I know mine has tremendously. So what would you say to people, like young men, and even young ladies out there who are maybe teenage years in high school, or even in their 20s trying to just figure it out, maybe even interested in real estate?
So I would say, to answer that question, I think what I would say is take time to figure out who you are and what you want, right? And really assess that, because I think that when you're in those younger formative years, as far as like, even let's say like the end of middle school to high school, or even like just starting college, I think a lot of what you think you want is what other people want for you. So to be able to decipher what you want and what the world wants, right? And so I think taking that time to become self-aware and assess, it's like, okay, what do you want? Like, when I say you, I'm saying like, not what you think you want, but what do you really want? And taking that time to find out, like, internally, what is it that you want? What is it that you want your life to look like? Right. So I would say just assessing that and spending that time and figuring that out, and just not trying to please everyone around you. Cause like my mom is a teacher, right? And I didn't go to college. I knew I wasn't going to college. So that was never an easy conversation. You know what I mean? But ultimately I didn't want to go to college. Yeah. So I'm not going to sacrifice my happiness and do a bunch of stuff for her that I don't want to do. So if that causes
your mom.
Yeah. And so it's like, my thing is like, and not necessarily being selfish, but realizing that, you have to figure out what you want and who you are.
And nothing wrong with being a little selfish sometimes.
Right. And I feel like there's certain points in your life you have to be. You kind of have to be. So I would say assessing what you want, and really just, like I said, learning, figuring out what it is that you want your life to look like, and then just start to look at career options from that perspective of what is it that I truly want, what I want my life to look like, and make the decisions from there.
Got you.
And so I feel like that's kind of what, what is it that I did, because I like, my whole thing was like, I understand like the concept of life, at least my perspective of it is that like you're not supposed to trade time for money.
True.
Right? Like I think your time is worth way more than any amount of money, right? Like you have billionaires, right? That's exactly. You have billionaires who have died. Let's say Steve Jobs, he died from some form of cancer.
But like 61.
Right, but exactly. But he couldn't have, if he couldn't have spent $1 billion to get back 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter how much money he had, what he accomplished. So I guess my whole thing is like, I don't believe in trading time for money, right? I understand that up front it's a sacrifice that you have to make at some point, right? So if I am going to trade my time, something that I can never get back for money, I'm going to do something that I want to do, right? Something that I enjoy doing. And then with that being said, I feel like the ultimate goal and one of the reasons why I'm in real estate is because, when you purchase property, you're acquiring assets that give you cash flow, right? And so there's going to become a time to where ultimately at least I would hope there's going to come a time to where all of my assets pay me enough to where I don't have to work.
Exactly.
Right. And so it's not that I don't want to work, but now I don't have to make any decisions based off of money. Right. So I can just move pure-heartedly off of what I want to do what I want to do. If I don't want to spend time on doing something, I'm not thinking like, oh, I really need to make this money to do this. So then I can live my life the way that I want to. So yeah.
For sure, bro. Hey, well, man, I appreciate that. Well, I guess one more question.
No, you good.
One more. Are there any habits that you have that have nothing to do with real estate that you would say are positive that you do in your own life? Like, do you read at all? You yoga? You work out? I know you were into boxing for a little bit.
What good? So right now, I have a lot of good habits. Right now, I might not be practicing all of them.
A lot of us aren't because
right. Stuff. But I have not been practicing. But I mean, I've done a little bit of yoga. Like hot yoga. I like hot yoga. I like meditation. I like exercising as a whole. I feel like I haven't been doing a lot of it, but I would say like, and I guess something that I practice is something that I have, the mentality that I have. I feel like sometimes I struggle with consistency on certain things, but I know that I'm one of those people. It's weird I'm gonna say this, but I feel like I struggle with consistency, but I'm one of those people that I don't ever give up. So like before I got to where I am now, to where some people could deem like successful or whatever. Like I bumped my head a lot of times and like was hopeless and whatever. But I guess my thing is like, I still tried to, I kept trying to figure it out. Like, okay, this don't work. Let me try this. And it's like you fall down, you might have your bruises. It hurts. You're in pain, whatever. You figure it out. And it's like, you know what? I'm gonna try this now. I'm gonna try this now. So I would say that having one of my, I think not mentalities or habits. I have like a relentless mentality when it comes to accomplishing things that I really want to accomplish.
I'm sorry, but when you said that song came in my head. It was like, we fall down, we get up. That's like a real. That's real though.
No, definitely.
Like I feel like a lot of people sing that song and really don't even know what it really means. They don't really get up. They fall down and roll over.
Right.
They roll around for years and years.
Yeah.
And in their own little misery. But I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate your time. I can't give you money for this.
No, you good. I want
something out. I hope the viewers got some, trying to help y'all out. So thank you, bro. I appreciate you.